1-1 going into week 1, and that was before both teams had to switch their backup quarterbacks. So as you look at the field today, Breeze, Rodgers, and Matty Ice are not here, but Case Keenum and Nick Foles are. They're calling it the Underdog Bowl. Two surprise teams, each just one win away from their first chance at hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. And you know, Troy, I'll start with you, because if you take a look at these teams, besides the quarterback, they've had key injuries at key positions all season long, yet here they are.
Well, I think it speaks to the job that these coaches have done, and also to the depth that both of these teams have, which is because of the job that both of these general managers have done. Howie Roseman for the Eagles, and then, of course, Rick Spielman for the Minnesota Vikings. You talk about the quarterbacks, they lose their starters. They've got backups who have not only played in the league, but have won games in the NFL. The Eagles lose their running back, Darren Sproles. They make a trade for Jay Ajayi, and then of course Dalvin Cook for the Vikings goes down, and they had already acquired Latavius Murray, who had come into the season kind of expecting to get more of the load as it was. So a lot of great moves with personnel, and it has allowed both these teams to get to this game.
Yeah, they've done a great job as far as picking up players, but you know, you look at it, and I don't want to upset you.
No, you won't.
But this game is not about quarterbacks.
Oh.
It's not about quarterbacks. It's about two great defensive teams. They both are two of the best in the league, and they can force a lot of negative plays. And I think which defense forces the most negative plays, that's the one's going to win the game.
No, I agree. You know, two great defenses that in many ways are competing against each other as much as they're competing against the opposing offenses they'll see today. They cause offenses, and particularly quarterbacks, problems. And I think for these two quarterbacks, they walk a fine line of protecting the football, which will be huge in this football game, whilst at the same time trying to find a way to make enough chunk plays to win the football game. I think the team that wins the football game today will be the quarterback that doesn't make the most mistakes, and it's not the quarterback that makes the biggest plays.
Yeah, this game, I'm sure, is a big disappointment to a lot of viewers out there, because we don't have the big marquee quarterback. But just think about it. If you look at what's happened here in Philadelphia, if you in the division just along, I thought a lot of people thought the Giants would win it. Washington tanked. Dallas had all kind of off-field problems when they went down. So you look at that and you look at how did they get there. And Troy, it's so good to have someone up here that brings a new perspective to how to do a pregame show, because you nailed it right on the head with your analysis right off the top. Good to have a big guy here.
You got it.
Thank you,
what's so great? Quarterback. We only have one. What do we want? But you don't think about this game. We talk about the quarterbacks. The quarterbacks, are the two uncertain factors here. Those are the X factors, the things you're not sure about. You know you're going to get great defense. We understand that. But also special teams is something. Vikings had a punt block last week, turned the momentum of the game. Special teams could be as important as any other aspect in this game today, because there aren't many weaknesses on the defensive side of the ball. It's a quarterback. Protect the ball. Special teams could be the X factor.
Troy, we joked about you winning 3 rings and joining us here on the set. You've gone through this atmosphere before. One game to get to the Super Bowl. What's going through the minds and maybe the guts of these players right now?
Well, you can talk about how they got here and winning last week in the divisional game, but the championship game has a different feel. With each playoff game, the energy and the urgency is certainly ramped up. I agree with Howie that these defenses are obviously really good. And these quarterbacks, especially early on, if I was quarterbacking one of these teams, I'd say, hey, ease into this thing. Do not make a mistake early, because I do think it's going to come down to just 1 or 2 negative plays. You just don't know when it's going to occur.
The thing about your coach kept you calm.
Well, Troy got up there and called the
like
game.
today,
Here's
comes
the
back to
championship
Jimmy.
ring,
It
Super
always
Bowl
comes
ring
back
from
to
Michael
Jimmy.
Strahan. These two teams are trying to get to the game that will allow them to do that. We will talk more and get you all set for the championship of the NFC. The Minnesota Vikings coming off that miracle win. The Eagles trying to get back there for the first time since 2005 and get to the Super Bowl when we come back.
Coming up on the Ford Fox NFL pregame show, NFC Championship Edition. The QBs are the story of this game, and we'll talk to both of them. Case Keenum relives the Minnesota Miracle, and our own Terry Bradshaw talks with Nick Foles. Plus Riggle and more from the city of brotherly love. The Built Ford Tough Fox NFL Sunday pregame show is sponsored by the 2018 Ford F-150. It doesn't just raise the bar, it is the bar.
Well, the Eagles players just huddled up and this crowd went nuts. Why not? They're just minutes away from the kickoff of this year's NFC Championship game. Looking at Minnesota, you know, it was only a couple of months ago that seemed like the only people that loved Case Keenum were the moving companies. Undrafted out of college, 3 different NFL teams in 4 different cities in his first 5 seasons. He's been cut, waived, put on practice squads, traded, and benched. So Aaron Andrews, I guess you could say Keenum was definitely a survivor in Minneapolis miracle worker.
It's been an incredible journey for Case Keenum. You all know the story by now. Started the season as a backup quarterback, took over, took this Vikings team on an incredible ride, going 12-3 as a starter, but nothing more exciting than last week. Let's revisit it again. 10 seconds left, no timeouts, and Keenum delivers one of the biggest moments in NFL history.
Well, Case Keenum, this is what you've been living for.
I remember getting the snap and just making sure, hey, I got to give these guys a chance. I got to give one of these guys a chance.
We'll see if Keenum can work a little magic here.
When I let it go, it felt good.
Keenum steps into it.
It felt like it was going to be a good spot, is where I wanted to put it. I see Diggs jump up.
Pass is caught.
No, he's caught it. The next time I see him, he's turned, falling and kind of stumbling.
Diggs!
And I'm like, oh no, he's falling down.
Sideline!
And then he's not. He's running in the end zone.
Touchdown! Unbelievable! Vikings win it!
You know, at that moment, you know, I don't think I'm feeling anything. I don't know, or if I am, I don't know what it is. It's nothing and everything at the same time, if that makes sense.
Are you kidding me? In the Minneapolis Miracle!
What about a hit?
Yeah, I saw the picture that Diggs posted.
Diggs, Keenum, the heroes.
You know, and the picture says everything. I'm looking around, and at all the guys, and just thinking how special of a group that we have. You know, we're willing to go fight for each other, and we fought all the way to the very end.
Awesome play by Case Keenum and Stephon Diggs, but I got to give a shout out to Joe Buck. Fantastic call. Love having you beauties at a game with us. Nice to join us.
Hey,
let me ask you a question here, Stray.
What you got?
You know, this Minnesota and the Vikings would love to play for a Super Bowl right at home. But if Case Keenum takes him there, is he a franchise quarterback, and will he be paid like one? You've got the money. You've got it. Tell me.
You're going to ask me a question. I'm going to give you an answer. Case Keenum is not a franchise quarterback. He is a great quarterback who set himself up for a nice payday, but I don't think he's a franchise quarterback, and that's the issue that the Vikings are going to have to handle this offseason. All 3 of their quarterbacks, Bridgewater, Bradford, Keenum, all are free agents. If you franchise him, you're going to have to pay him $23 million. He's 43 other quarterbacks in the league make more money than he does, but he is here. The value in that. He won games with the Rams with a bad team when he filled in there last year, so he has talent. It's just not Rodgers and Brady and Breeze and Wentz. But he definitely set himself up for a nice payday.
You know, despite having to look over his shoulder all season long, he's done nothing but make big play after big play, none bigger than last week's play all season long, and he has this team within 1 game of advancing to the Super Bowl. This offense is built to support the strength of the team, their defense. A lot of play-action passes set up by a solid run game. They leave 6-7 in protection. Pat Shurmur does a great job getting these dynamic wide receivers open with rub routes, pick routes. If Case Keenum does one thing that Philadelphia's looking at is he has a propensity once or twice a game to throw the football up. When he does, if Philadelphia could take advantage of that opportunity, that could be the difference in the football game.
How you mentioned the Minnesota defense, led by Xavier Rhodes. This Minnesota defense is the best in the entire league as far as playing tight coverage, tight man coverage, press coverage, man in a zone principle. And because of that, you have to be extremely accurate against this defense. Nick Foles, that's been his problem. He has not been an accurate quarterback. Now, don't get fooled by what he did 2 weeks ago against Atlanta, throwing against the zone. It was, I think...
football's not in your future. What got you there?
After I was traded from here to St. Louis and that went through everything there, well, at that time, the love had, dwindled. That's a scary moment because I was so used to feeling this way about football and I didn't. And so I needed to take that step back. And when I made the decision to go to Kansas City, that's a big moment in my life. And after a few days of being in training camp, the joy came back even more than it had ever been.
Nick Foles, to me, is the X factor.
Quite honestly, if you beat the Vikings and then you go and win the Super Bowl, you and I both know when you come back to training camp next year, you're backup.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought, I mean, is that crazy? I know that's getting ahead of myself, but that's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. And I think that, like you said, next year you come back, you're backup. But I think the beautiful thing is, like, because of what I experienced after St. Louis, that week of, like, it being gone, I'm equipped to handle this situation, and it made me a better player, crazy enough.
Firing, and it is Foles delivers.
What's it like playing here? This town can just eat its own.
I think the big thing when you're a Philadelphia Eagle and you play here, you have to understand the people that you play for. The passion goes so much deeper than just wearing the jersey. It's in their blood.
You are good friends with Case Keenum. Will y'all meet before the game and say, can you believe we're doing this, going up against one another? It's kind of a cool deal.
It is a really cool deal. I'm sure we will before the game. Sometimes I'm also really excited to compete against him because we're both great competitors, so I know that he's ready to roll.
Nick Foles is the man, and they're all behind him.
I'm proud of you, though.
People always ask when I do these interviews, what are these guys like? This guy is just an awesome guy. And his good friend, Case Keenum, on the other side is the same way. They hang out in the offseason. Their families are very close. It's kind of hard to pull for one of them. Look at there they are, Nick and Case right there together. It's funny. Nick comes in to take the job at the Rams. He gets benched. Keenum takes over that job. They both move out, and now they meet here today. Kind of a cool deal.
Yeah. You know what? He's the genuine article. He is an authentic guy. I think this city appreciates him. He was here before. He had success. He's back now. I think he appreciates it a lot more. I think this offensive staff has done a great job of adapting the system to fit him. I think he's grown more comfortable over the last 3-4 weeks, and the receivers are more comfortable with him. Nick Foles, I think, will play well today.
And now one thing I think that Nick Foles appreciates is the defense. We talk so much about the defensive line, which they deserve all the accolades that they're getting. Your son Chris as well, Howie. But the secondary of the Eagles, Jim Schwartz allows the secondary to take chances. These guys are always prepared. Jalen Mills, Ronald Darby, and Malcolm Jenkins, these guys are allowed to be ball hawks. They're allowed to be aggressive, and they're going to need that today. And last week against Atlanta, they shut Atlanta out. Atlanta has some of the best receivers in the league. Shut them down. And in the last 17 games, the Eagles haven't allowed a point in the final 2 minutes. That is an absolutely incredible stat, and they may need that today because it's going to be a tight game.
Yeah, you're right about this Philadelphia defense. They are aggressive in the secondary, and they take a lot of chances because they have such an outstanding pass rush. If a team can protect and give their quarterback some time, you can get Philadelphia on a double move. But the problem is you've got to be able to protect. An outstanding defense.
All right, no matter who wins this game, one thing we do know, Jimmy Johnson, is that they'll get to play the New England Patriots because the Patriots are champions of the AFC yet again. Everybody wondering about Tom Brady's hand going in. He had it taped up, and his hand came through in the end. Down by 10 to start the fourth quarter. He threw 2 touchdown passes to Danny Amendola, and that was enough as the Patriots win the AFC Championship over Jacksonville 24-20. An amazing season for Jacksonville. But what can you say about this Patriots team?
Listen, I know America's sitting out there and they're wanting new blood. I get that, but you got to appreciate the greatness of New England and certainly Tom Brady. And I thought today, when you saw the Amendola make that touchdown catch that really sewed this game up for him, he went right down to the very thing that we thought would happen didn't happen. I thought Jacksonville would be able to get into Brady's face. They didn't. He had plenty of time.
Oh,
he went
got
to his
hit a
third
lot.
receiver,
He got hit
and
earlier.
finally, yeah, but it didn't bother him.
But I tell you this,
greatness.
When you watch this game, I think the second half, especially when it counted, when the Patriots are down 10 in the fourth quarter, they have another gear because of experience.
Yes.
No one else has.
Yes.
That's why they've been successful.
8th Super Bowl appearance for Belichick and Brady. That's unbelievable. They're 5-2. I don't remember who their 2 losses were, do you? All right. These guys are going to make their predictions about this game in just a bit. So will Rob Riggle. But first, Jerry Jones has a little prediction for next season and beyond.
I'm Crazy Jerry, and I'm already looking forward to the future. That's when Marcus Williams' jersey will be retired by the Vikings. Joe Buck's beard will be fined for unnecessary roughness. Crazy. And I will not do anything to anger Roger Goodell, wink, wink. I have to say wink, wink because ain't that right, Mark?
Hey, Jerry, check out my new coach. We're such good friends, it's crazy. I'm bringing back Gruden. Why don't you bring back Jimmy Johnson?
He won't return my calls.
Just spin, baby.
Well, Jimmy Johnson's the only guy that can beat Howie in our pick segment. This is the last one. Howie has the lead.
Only one who has a shot.
They have to take different teams. Howie's taking his son, Chris, and the Eagles. Jimmy is taking the Vikings.
Let me say this. If Jimmy had half a heart, given that there's a family member, I'd take the Eagles.
NFC are just about to kick off the NFC Championship game. We'll have it for you right after this. Tough Fox NFL Sunday pregame show. It's time to figure out who's going to Super Bowl 52. Will it be the Vikings or the hometown Eagles? Joe Buck, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, Kurt. Everybody, we cannot wait to watch this slugfest between these two teams, these two good defenses. The Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles. And now welcome to the broadcast booth. I'm Joe Buck with the Hall of Famer, three-time Super Bowl champion, Troy Aikman. Let's talk about this quarterback matchup, man. This is our 16th NFC Championship game. This is the most improbable matchup of quarterbacks. We'll stick with Nick Foles. It's his 5th start since taking over for Carson Wentz, and I got to say, he played really well in that second half last week.
Well, he did, and I think a big reason for that was the bye week really helped the Eagles, and it helped Nick Foles. The staff, Doug Peterson, they went back, they looked at the things that he does well, some of the run-pass options, the up-tempo stuff really served him well. But what they don't have with Nick Foles is the big plays down the field. I think it's important against this defense that they come up with some big chunks because they're going to have a hard time driving the football.
I thought the Eagles might be running out with the kind of ovation they just got behind us. Let's talk about one last note about Foles. He's been a Pro Bowler. He was a 3rd-round pick. Case Keenum wasn't even drafted coming out of Houston, but he's been so good. He has really put the city and the team on his back, and that win last week was incredible.
Well, it was incredible, and how will that carry over into this ball game, we'll find out. But Case Keenum's a big reason why this team is here, and we've seen his confidence grow each and every week. Now, we also know that he has a tendency a couple times a game to just kind of throw one up in the air, and that old adage that it's not how many big plays you make, but it's how few bad plays. I think that's going to be the key in this game, him being really smart with the football, and we'll see if he's able to do that.
Well, how did the Vikings come off that emotional win last Sunday? For more on Minnesota, down to Aaron Andrews.
Vikings were